Great. Hello, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. This meeting of online presenters is officially beginning. Guests, please note that in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current or a former member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 of the official Toastmaster speeches. If you have had substantial presentation experience, you may apply for membership in the club after completing a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered in one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to approval by the members of our club. Now, if you haven't done so already, please change your panel to ensure that it shows the name and any role that you're playing tonight. Simply right-click on your photo and select rename in order to do so. If you're a guest, we ask you to put guest in front of your name so we can properly identify you. Remember, we have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language and word usage so that you won't be considered offensive. We want to be sensitive to cultural differences. Please note we are recording this meeting and your video and audio may contribute to our club marketing purposes. Please mute your microphone when you are not speaking. And with that, I ask you to join me in welcoming officially our VP of Education, DTM, Andrew Burns, to take over.
Thank you very much, Angela, and we are excited to have you here. You heard a little bit of music and what we're planning to do at 9 o'clock with our lip sync program to have everybody have lots of fun. Save us the trouble of worrying about how next week it's going to be set up by using this time from the first part of the meeting to the end to select a role for yourself for next week. And that would be very helpful. If there are people that don't have roles that want roles, put it into the computer and we will get that taken care of. We have all our speakers set up and all our evaluators are set up as well. We may need to switch evaluator and speech number 2 that Lou's supposed to be doing if he doesn't come in earlier. But other than that, we are excited to be moving forward. We have one new person arriving. Is this Calvin? No, Barry Mitchell. Can you just take 10 seconds and introduce yourself?
My name is Barry A. Mitchell. I'm from the Rise and Shine McKinney Toastmasters, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
And where is that located?
McKinney, Texas.
Okay.
That's 30 minutes south of Dallas.
I see. And I see the drum set behind you. So when we ask for a drum roll, you can go back there and give us a drum roll.
30 minutes north of Dallas, and I will not give you a drum roll. Thank you.
Okay. One last, Brigitte. Could you give us a few seconds on you, and then we'll go right into the meeting.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I am Birgit. I am, wow, 2 years with online presenters now. Hold on, I'm on an iPad, so I got to figure this out. And yeah, almost 2 years. So super happy to be here. And I'm hailing out of Silicon Valley. Back to you, Andy.
All right. And Carl, let's squeeze you in. We're over our time allotment, but I can't ignore you. So a few seconds from you. Carl? Okay, we can introduce you at the end of the meeting. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce our very versatile Toastmaster, Brian David Crawford, who will be leading the ceremonies of the day as Toastmaster of the Day. Go ahead, Brian. You're up.
Thank you so much, Andrew Byrne. Aloha. My name is Brian David Crawford. I'm the Toastmaster of the Day. We have a very exciting meeting today because we're trying a lot of stuff. I always tell people Toastmasters is not about learning how to become a better communicator. It's about learning how to step outside your comfort zone and try something new, which is what this club is doing today. The first thing that we're going to be doing that's slightly new is we're adding a new role in which someone will be giving a tech tip. So please help me welcome Jim Barber, who will share with us a tip for more powerful evaluations.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. My fellow Toastmasters are most welcome guests this evening. This is not a tech tip. There is nothing high tech about what I'm going to be talking about this evening. It will, however, produce, I think, more powerful evaluations. Before I get into that, though, let me mention, for some of you may not know, most of you know that I've been a member of Toastmasters for a long time. I've been a member of Online Presenters for 3 years. I adore speaking in person, but I also enjoy speaking online, especially when I can do something online that you can't do in person. And that's what I'm going to be talking about this evening. I'm going to be doing something with an evaluation that you just can't simply do with a normal in-person presentation. Specifically, if you've ever watched the evening news, you'll notice that the news anchor, when they're talking about a celebrity or a world leader or something like that, they almost always put a picture of the person that they're talking about up on the viewing screen. So this is helpful. It enables everybody to focus on the point of the discussion. And my attitude is, why don't we do that for evaluations? And I'm going to show you tonight how to do that. Now, I'm going to be using a virtual camera system called Manycam, but there are many virtual camera systems out there. I'm not claiming that Manycam is the best or that you should use that. It's simply the one that I use. If I have time, at the end of the thing, I'm going to show you how you can do it without Manycam, how you can simply do it with Zoom. But with Manycam, you can do a little bit more, so let me start with that. What you need to do in getting started, you can do this before the meeting, is you need to create a preset. That's the Manycam version name. I don't know if that's industry standard, but it's basically a fill-in-the-blank screenshot. Like I have here, this is what I would be doing for an evaluation, but you'll notice there is no picture up there because the person that I'm supposed to be evaluating hasn't started yet. So this is a fill-in-the-blank video kind of thing. Now, I do that ahead of time. I prepare that ahead of time. Where'd I go? There we go. And you just sit back and you conduct a normal meeting. The person that you're evaluating gets up and they speak. You add one thing to your listening to the evaluation. While they are talking, you take a couple of screenshots of their appearance. For example, Lou Brown, who hasn't shown up yet tonight, was giving a speech a couple of weeks ago. I was evaluating him, so I fired a couple of screenshots off of Lou speaking, and this is one of them. I suggest that you fire a couple because if you take only one, there's a very good chance that you're going to catch them with their eyes closed. So fire a couple of screenshots. It's going to take about 5 seconds. Then you go back and you focus on your evaluations and you don't do anything else. When table topics starts, because of course you're going to be listening to the speeches, but when table topics starts, then you get to work on your evaluation and you do some other things as well. You take the screenshot that I showed you a moment ago and you clean it up. You use your favorite photo editing software. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. I use Windows Paint. That's how out of date I am. All you need is something that can do cut and paste, couple of things like that. And we're going to get rid of this extra stuff and convert this screenshot into this, which is a little bit cleaner. Now we take this picture and we put it into the blank that we had in the preset before, so that the preset, which did look like this, now looks like this. And this is something that I can use in my evaluation. Now you can go back and continue with table topics, listen to the other evaluations, things like that, because you are set. You prepare, you simply go forward, and as you are giving your you get ready to give your evaluation, you say, "Hi, everybody, Mr. General Evaluator, my fellow Toastmasters, and especially Toastmaster There we go. Especially Toastmaster Lou Brown. And that brings Lou's picture up and it makes it a little bit better for everybody. They know who I'm talking about. They can actually see him in action and that sort of thing. It's a nice technique, but as I say, doesn't involve anything technical except Manycam. You don't have to use Manycam. That's the cool part about it. If you're not going to use Manycam, if you just want to use Zoom, then you do exactly the same thing that I just described, but you add one extra thing. Remember a few minutes ago that I had, there we go, Lou's picture that I said I cleaned up with the, if you're going to do it with using Zoom, add one more step. Move that picture up into the corner so it gets it out of the way. You need to do this before you, now don't save that in the preset, save it as a Zoom background. And now I'm going to take myself off of Manycam and pull up. Did that? Okay, now I'm strictly on Zoom. I'm not using Manycam, strictly using Zoom. But if I were pretending that I'm actually giving my evaluation, I pull up, I choose virtual background. I find the background that I've prepared ahead of time, and I pull that up. Where'd he go? And of course it's not, there we go, now it's working. And that's it. Now, the only problem with this, as opposed to Manycam, is that I'm in the way. And so I have to scooch over to the side, something I didn't have to do with Manycam, so that I can continue doing my presentation at this point. But I simply continue with the evaluation. I just lost myself, but anyway, it's working. Okay, and basically I'm doing this again, strictly with Zoom, not using Manycam, not using anything else. It's not technical, it's not hard. It does take a little bit of scrambling because you're throwing in some extra steps that you're not used to doing, but it does, I think, provide a more powerful evaluation because you end up with something that's a little more personal, a little more focused on the person that you're evaluating. I think it's a nice technique. I urge you to be creative and give it a try and see what you come up with. And that's my tip, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Jim, for that wonderful tip. I think it's always good for us to learn from someone else and try something new in our process of stepping outside our comfort zone. See, we're tying that in. I'm going to tie this in all over the place. Speaking of stepping outside his comfort zone, a man who cannot be constrained by a circle, please help me welcome our timer, David Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day. As your timer today, I will be hanging out in a little circle. Oh, so that I can share with you, not that. The important thing is I'll get this working by the time it's, you will see in the background green, yellow, and red at the appropriate timing intervals as soon as I figure out what I messed up in the meantime because I was checking email or something. So watch for that when it comes along.
Thank you very much, David, for that wonderful explanation of why things don't always go according to plan. We're now going to move on to the people who are handling functionary roles. These are people who are helping all of us take care of roles. We started off with a timer. Now we're going to move on to our all counter. Please help me welcome back Jim Barber to explain to us his role as all counter. Or maybe not. Let's move on to the watcher or grammarian, who I know is here because I can see her. Please welcome Angela Heath.
As a grammarian, my job is to listen out for great uses or not so great uses of the English language, and I will report back at the end. Back to you, Toastmaster today.
Thank you so much, Angela. We're going to move on down our stuff because, we have Jim back. Jim, would you like to explain your dual roles as watcher and counter?
I wasn't aware that I was watcher and counter, so you caught me a little off guard there. But as they're actually related roles, because as the counter, I'm going to be listening for filled pauses, egregious uses of silence. And as the watcher, I'm going to be looking at what everybody is doing, looking for egregious uses of the visual space. And that's what I'm going to be doing, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Jim. Now we're going to move on to someone who actually knows what role they're going to be doing today, because I see it in their name. Please welcome our chat monitor, Mary Ruth. You're on mute.
Today, my duties is chat monitor, and I will be monitoring what people type in the chat and giving a report at the end.
Thank you so much, Mary Ruth. We have one last functionary to introduce, and that is our vote counter. Look, I went with counter. It's just a gut instinct at this point. But this is our vote counter. Please welcome Trisha Smith.
I am the vote counter tonight. As I said, I'm not savvy on the polling. It looks like I may not have that option even in Zoom. So I'm doing it through the chat box. So the best speaker, the best evaluator, the best table topic presenter. So watch the chat box for that, and I'll give the results at the end, the winners. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Trisha. We're now going to move on from our introductory portion of the meeting into a prepared speaking portion of the meeting. And we get to do something that I have never had the pleasure of doing here in Online Presenters. It's something I've done numerous times in community clubs when we have small attendance, which is where you have to introduce yourself as the Toastmaster to introduce yourself as the speaker. So again, stepping outside our comfort zones. Our first speaker today is Brian David Crawford. He'll be here to talk about how to win speech contests, because he wins a lot of them. In 12 years, he's won 38 speech contests. Please welcome our first speaker, How to Win Trophies, Brian David Crawford. I'm going to tell you something that's going to shock you, that's going to blow your mind. Each and every one of you is potentially capable of winning the International Speech Contest this year. I'm not talking about winning it in like 10 years when you become really polished and good. I'm talking about winning it this year, right now, in like 6 months when it's going to be held and wherever it's going to be held. And there's one secret in how to do it. And it's, you have to understand what it is about you that is great. So let's think about, what is the International Speech Contest? What are the things people have to do to win it? And go over some of the tips and tricks on how to make yourself excellent. And to best be able to do that, I'm going to take us to my handy dandy share screen. When we're talking about the International Speech Contest, we're really talking about the ability to do multiple things at once. We're talking about the ability to give someone a speech that really can do all aspects of everything. That's not what I wanted to do. I just keep hitting the wrong button here. There it goes. Cool. We're talking about a speech that has to entertain. We're talking about a speech that has to make people have emotions, have people react a certain way, laugh, cry, smile, want to do something. And each of us has the capability to be inspiring. When I talk to people who are hesitant to compete in a speech contest, they always tell me the same 3 reasons why they should not compete in the speech contest. 1, and this is very important, they think they're not inspiring.
Brian, you're not sharing anything.
I'm not.
My screen, but I don't see anything. Is anybody seeing the shared screen? No.
Hold on. Boom.
There it goes.
Thank you. 1, they think they're not inspiring. That's a problem a lot of people have, and I'm going to tell you why you in fact are inspiring. 2, they think they're not funny. A lot of people have that fear. But most importantly is they don't think that they have the, it's hard to put it into words, but they don't think they don't have it. So I'm going to go through these 3 things and tell you why you are inspiring, you are funny, and you do have it. So let's start with the first thing. everyone is inspiring, right? I mean, we've all seen it. We've all heard the speeches where the person is battling chemotherapy, battling chemo, they're battling cancer, and they climb Mount Everest at the same time while pulling a dog sled up full of orphans from Chicago. We've heard that speech. We have to ask ourselves, how am I going to be more inspiring than this? But I assure you, you can be more inspiring than that. I beat a woman who ran a marathon while on chemotherapy for leukemia, and my speech was about the fact that we shouldn't call people beautiful because being beautiful is pointless. Fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter how inspiring you are. There isn't a single category in the speech that says, this is our inspiring story of the day. Let's give them a gold star. What really comes down to when people have this fear is they have this fear that what they're saying isn't going to motivate people. I don't know about you, but when I hear someone who's run a marathon on leukemia, I look down at myself and go, I don't care. That is nothing to me. That doesn't mean anything to me. How am I supposed to relate to that? The key thing to being inspiring isn't to have done some amazing feat like running through the burning wreckage at Pearl Harbor. The key to being inspiring is to become relatable to the audience, to connect to the audience. Those little things that we think are meaningless and not inspiring, those really are the big things that are going to help people say to themselves, I understand what they're saying. This makes sense to me. I am inspired by what they have to say. Frankly, I would rather hear another dad talk about how he's overcome the struggles of taking his kid to Boy Scouts and started Girl Scouts, and then they have Little League, and they have to take the dog training, and they also have to go to church, and they do this other thing, and how they're able to fit all that in a 3-hour window. That's impossible. How did you do that? That's much more relatable to who I am at this moment. When we hear about these people going through all these incredible stories, overcoming adversity and all those things, those are incredible and those are grand, but I can't relate to them. I can't relate to what happens in Star Wars, but I can relate what happens in a TV show that's very similar to my own. The second thing that people always tell me, they're not funny. And let's be honest, not everyone is going to be as humorous as someone like John Candy, but it doesn't mean they're not funny. The key to understanding what makes you funny, I have a sense of humor that is unique to who I am. You have a sense of humor which is unique to you. You have to tap into those things that makes you funny. If you spend your time and energy trying to be me with my false sense of confidence and swagger, you're going to fail. Trust me on that. But if you tell yourself, this is what makes me funny, these are the little things that I do that make people laugh, and you exploit those, you go to those over and over and over again, time and time again, every sentence, every paragraph, continually throughout 5 to 7 minutes, you too will be funny. It doesn't matter if you're a comedian or anything like that. You understand what makes you funny. The last thing, the most important thing, is people don't think that they have it. This undefinable, intangible thing that makes people think that they're a good speaker. That's just confidence in who you are. It's confidence in your ability to do that. Right now, we have confidence to do things within our comfort zone. We continually step outside our comfort zone to grow as a leader and a communicator. The more you step outside that comfort zone, the more expanded you are, the more abilities you have, the more you have it. It doesn't matter if your zone of confidence is this small or if it's the size of the Texas Stadium. Once you learn to be happy where you are, you can have it. You just have to believe in yourself. Once you understand why you're inspiring, understand what makes you funny, and understand that you have it, you too can win the International Speech Contest. And with that, we're now going to transition away from me speaking so that I can catch my breath and potentially have a drink. And instead, we're going to listen to someone else talk who hopefully will be just as incredible of a speaker as I am. So when we talk about people who are going to be speaking next, we're talking about, of course, Pamela Pamela Benjamin. And Pamela is speaking from the Presentation Mastery Level 3, Increasing Knowledge Using Presentation Software. This is her type. This is the project she's working on. The title of her speech is, and I'm scrolling up because she changed it on me, is I Challenge You. With a speech titled I Challenge You, please welcome Pamela Benjamin.
Online presenters and guests, I want to challenge you. You might say, what does she want to challenge me about? I'm going to tell you that. Get your fingers ready. I am going to ask you to post in the chat. It is now the 24th of January. What happened to all those goals you had for 2022? Are they gone? Are they still around? Do they need to be dusted off a little bit? Put in the chat box if you need a challenge or a coach to help you get to your challenges, get to your fitness goal in 2022. So if you have no hope, if you have no idea what you want to do, just type in help. If you're on plan and you don't need any help, just say, I'm good to go. I don't need any help. I got it all figured out. If you're not sure you have a goal, say, I didn't even know you were supposed to have one. Say, I don't know. Calvin Dorsey, he doesn't need a challenge or a coach. Okay, Calvin. And Linda is a run coach. Well, hello there, Linda. And Andy Byrne says help. I am going to go through some slides here, and I'm working on getting better at presentation skills. My first goal is to challenge you. And to challenge you, the first thing you need to do is think, is this possible? Is it possible that I can change? It starts up here. It doesn't start right here. It starts up here. What can I do if I want to commit to something and dedicate myself to that? I don't know. I would like to know what you would like to accomplish in 2022. Now you might say in the chat, I'm not going to change anything. If you would have something that you really want to work on from a fitness perspective, put that in the chat. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see what the run coach is working on too. Attitude is everything, Trish. So Carl is on a plan, not physical, but professional. But I'm talking about fitness today. So here is my challenge. I want you to do 2 things for me. And in response for that, I would like you, in response for doing 2 things for you, I will give you 30 minutes of my time. 30 minutes. What can happen in 30 minutes? That's a great question. Do you think I could challenge you to change something? I have been deeply involved in fitness intensely for the last 5 years. And I have discovered that it's the passion of my life. I love to talk to people and I love to encourage them. One thing I know is I'm a really good listener. And I would like to hear what you have to say, and then I'll give you a report on different ways you can get better or different ways that you can get stronger. So in exchange for 30 minutes of my time, this is what I'd like from you. I want you to go to my website, and I want you to tell me what you think of my website. So I would like an evaluation. It's horrible. Oh my, why did you pick those colors? Oh, I love it. Oh, those pictures are fantastic. I feel so motivated. See, it's not really hard. It just takes a couple scrolling, a little bit of scrolling and a little bit of reading. Number 2, after you've been to my website, I would like you to give me a referral. Now that's after the 30 minutes. If you think that I earned it and I did something that was valuable, I would like you to go to this website. It's called SuperProf. I am on the website and I am up there as a fitness motivation coach. And I would like you to give me a referral based on that 30 minutes and the report I gave you. Now, if you thought I really encouraged you and helped you think of different ways, you could put that on there. You could also put that I'm very supportive and whatever you might say. Anything positive is probably would be best because I would really like to start a fitness business on the weekends, helping people become more fit. I have done a lot of different fitness projects I have done a lot of different, this is the ad there that I have there on SuperProf. I've done a lot of fitness projects and I find that I really enjoy putting a lot more of my thought and ideas into helping people instead of just doing things on Meetup. I had a Meetup group and not so many people were showing up for the Meetup group. I think some of my activities were a little intense, but I would really like to help a few people get to the next level or what they want to do. Now you might think I have an idea what everybody needs to become. You might think I'm going to make you do this. You might think I'm going to make you do this. But my goal is to listen. My goal is to listen to what your objectives are in your life. So in closing, I'd like to say thank you. And if you would like to send me an email and sit down on Zoom with me for 30 minutes, you can send me an email at info@pamelabenjaminfitness.com. Okay? 2 things and 30 minutes. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Pamela, for that wonderful speech. I'm sure we're all going to hopefully give you that feedback you're asking for. We're going to move on to our third speaker of the day. Our third speaker of the day is working on an icebreaker. Icebreaker is always my favorite speeches because it's kind of the setting point. This is where the beginning of it all begins. Today's icebreaker is from the Dynamic Leadership Level 1 Mastering Fundamentals speech. The purpose of the project is for the member to introduce themselves to the club and learn the basic structure of a public speech. Here with a speech titled The Beautiful Game of Football, please welcome Kyrin Hall. The Beautiful Game of Football, Kyrin Hall.
So Toastmasters, I'm going to take a second time round and ask you a special question. Have you ever seen a parent screaming at a football game, "Run, run"? Have you ever seen that before? If you have met my dad. You see, my dad wanted to be a professional footballer. And he planned everything out for himself and his son. He looked at the food, he looked at the fitness, he looked at how much they have to work out. He envisioned his son being a professional footballer in the World Cup. Think Messi. That's my father's dream. He had a little problem though. He didn't have a son. He had me. So I had to learn to play football. I do like to run, but I hate football. I'd like you to imagine for a moment England and what you know about England. Damp, cold, wet. This is England. that was football for me. From age 5 to around age 10, I was rolling around in mud playing football. And I say football is the one we kick with our foot, right? It's soccer, not the football of America. So I was rolling around and I hated every minute of it. I had a lot of bubbers there. I got punched in my face a lot. Hated it. Well, Bubba was actually these guys, or sometimes these ones. But my idea of a Saturday morning was not playing football, rolling around in the mud. I cried, I was scratched up. I hated it. But I'll tell you what I loved. You see, my parents divorced when I was about 6 years old. And every Saturday morning, when my dad took me to football, I would have brunch with my dad. And that was the most beautiful memory of my childhood, is having one-to-one with this guy, my dad, who decided that he had to teach me to be super athletic, and he had to break down my game by teaching me how to pivot. You see, he'd show me how to go to the right, and he'd show me how to go to the left, to figure out, how do I get this little ball across the field? Well, I practiced a lot, and eventually I was able to do it. I had a hat trick. A hat trick is 3 goals in one game. Could you imagine? The goal who fell down every time, get hit in the eye, was able to figure out how to get 3 goals in one game. But it was so worth it, because when I looked up, my dad had such a huge smile. It wasn't about the game. It was just about really making my dad happy and the time we spent together. So football for me, it's often referred to as a beautiful game in London, but it brings together memories and thoughts of my childhood, and ones that remind me of the time that I spent with my dad. But what was special about spending time with my dad is that he taught me how to pivot. And I've used that strategy. So pivoting meaning going to the right and kind of going to the left. And that's how you move the ball down the court. And I find that I use that concept of pivoting now in my life. And pivoting, the word pivot itself, right? Now with the pandemic, we talk about pivoting to online. We talk about pivoting our jobs. We talk about making changes, essential changes, to get us to where we need to be. Well, what does it mean for me, and how have I used it? That moving to the right and moving to the left that my dad taught me? Well, it's an acronym for P for persistence. What I learned in playing football, it took me maybe 2 years to get my first goal, but it's a persistent and a consistency of doing what I need to do every day, every time. Being relentless in doing the necessary things. I is to be incredibly intentional. You see, in football, it didn't matter if you pivot to the right or the left, but you had to pivot. You had to make a decision. So it's about making that decision and taking action. So being very clear, very intentional. You don't know if it's right or wrong. That is not the question. It's about making a decision and making a choice. V is visualization. The whole idea is that you cannot hit a target that you cannot see. And you first visualize in your head, you saw it, and then you made it possible. It becomes possible in your body. O, ownership. It's up to you, right? If it's not you, then who? And so making the decision that I'm going to run, I'm going to be there, I'm going to take it all the way across the field, it's going to be my day. That decision has to be made not on the field. You have to arrive deciding that this is your ball and you're going to take it. And last, T. T for me, this one is super important, is the whole idea in the game of football is that no one man is an island. That is, together we travel. You know, there's a saying, alone you go fast, but together you go much further. There's another saying that we are as good as the 5 people, or we're a sum total rather, of the 5 people with whom we surround ourselves. So the whole idea when we think about football is this idea of team sport, collaborating and doing your bit to help everyone go along, or to win, that we win together. So what my dad taught me as a child, and what I remember from that game, and my dad's died, unfortunately, but whenever I watch football or as I navigate through life, is this whole idea of how do I pivot? How do I stay persistent, be intentional, visualize, own it, the decision that I make, and do it with team. And if it's something I've got to do alone, do it in a timely manner. So I encourage you all Toastmasters to pivot to the right or to the left, make that decision, and back to you, Toastmasters.
Thank you so much for that wonderful speech. I'm glad it was about what we Americans refer to as soccer. And, you know, because when I saw beautiful, I'm like, come on, you got to be talking about that. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. At this point, I want to make sure everyone takes the opportunity to vote for who you think is your best speaker, not me. Please send your votes off to Trisha Smith because everyone qualified for it. No,
Oh,
not everyone.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, David.
Dr. Kyrin wanted to finish her point. So that's a good reason for running over, but she did run over by a little bit. I posted the times in the chat.
Thank you very much, David, for correcting me. I greatly appreciate it. Now we're going to move on from the prepared speaking portion of the evening to the impromptu speaking portion of the evening. This is where people will be forming table topics. Please, to explain what the role is and ask us some questions, please welcome Andrew Byrne.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. I'm going to run through a segment that we call in Toastmasters one of the 3 standardized structures, and that's impromptu speaking, table topics. And this is to help you with your listening skills. This is to help you with your thinking on the run skills. As you saw from our agenda, today is the birthday of Winston Churchill. And so we're going to use the word of the day of wisdom, but I want you all to be able to respond to, what do we have? We have quotes from Winston Churchill, and I want you to think about that as it relates to your own life and Toastmasters in particular. So I have a number of quotes. We can go through a number of people quite quickly. The first one, success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Tell me how that quotation impacts your life. Carl.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I find it very strange that in England nowadays, and for many decades, Churchill has been vilified and is considered one of the worst prime ministers in British history, something I cannot understand at all. This is a man who saved his country and, frankly, saved the Western world, because without England, America could have never gotten involved in World War II in Europe. Churchill is one of the giants of the 20th century. I just want to say that to begin with. But with regards to the quote that you specify, of course it's true. Failure is just one step closer to success. That's all there is to it. It's not permanent. It's not terminal. It just gets you closer. And success, frankly, I got to tell you, I've learned very little from success.
I've learned a lot from failure. And success certainly is not permanent. And if you need an example, Winston Churchill, one of the giants of the 20th century, vilified in his own country as a horrible man and a horrible leader, which as I say, I cannot understand, but he proves the point. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you. Our next quote is this: "You have enemies. Good. That means you stood up for something sometime in your life." Calvin, how does that make you feel? Can you relate?
I certainly can. When you have enemies, I found that it doesn't necessarily mean you stood up for anything. Who can determine if you are the enemy? It seems somewhat whimsical. Some people don't like you because you're confident. Other people might not like you because a young lady might prefer you over them. Some people don't like you because you live in a certain part of the city. There are so many reasons why people consider themselves your enemy. In my case, I never let myself have enemies. I was always one of those people who just could take people as I would meet them. And here's what I mean by that. I've always been determined not to let somebody else's problem be my problem. And I wouldn't allow them to dominate my thinking by sucking me in to their problem. However, it's important to know who your enemies are, who your enemies are in terms of from their perspective, because then you can have a heads up and be on the lookout and be aware and sidestep them and their approaches toward you and things that they might want to do to you. However, I found that being optimistic, being confident, focusing on your business will allow you to overcome any obstacle posed by a perceived enemy. Back to you.
Thank you very
Mr.
much,
Topic
Calvin.
Master.
The next quote is this: "Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen." Lou Brown, how do you feel about that quotation in your life?
Wow, I mean, all of these quotes are incredible and very apropos, I guess I'll say, and for me, as well as so many others that I've come across. Wow, I mean, in these tumultuous times, I don't think there has been a more important, better, crucial opportunity to do the second of that quote, which is sit down and listen. Because many folks that I've come across, and sadly, I've done this a few times myself, is we're all wanting to speak. We don't listen to the other person because we're so busy in our own mind framing our response to something and wanting to share it that we fail to listen. So I have to always remember that, take a step back, and essentially practice what I preach, which is just that. Take a moment, listen to someone else. We all have our own opinions and our own ideas of things. And they all differ in so many ways that we should certainly be open-minded to accept others. However, when our convictions are extremely strong, I am a strong proponent to say, you know what, stand up and shout that to the end of the world, because it is very important. I mean, there are examples of leaders throughout history, Churchill being one of them, Martin Luther King Jr., Viktor Frankl, who have had some important things to share that were so crucial for others to hear that it didn't matter if others disagreed. It wasn't about them listening to the other people. It was about having the people listen to them and really understand what their message was. And certainly those things happen every now and then. You know, to be balanced, it does require a little of each, but it's an interesting quote that it kind of puts that dynamic together. It's a little bit of a yin yang, but in many situations, you're going to have a lot of yang with no yang, and in other cases, a lot of yang with no yang. That is my take on that, Mr. Topics Master.
Very good. A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. I'd like to call on one of our guests, Blenda Sims. Would you like to do this? Just
Yes,
let me
sir.
know.
I'll take a stab at this.
Okay, great.
I am that kind of person where I see the positive in a situation. So in a situation, every time, even if it's a difficult one, I always try to look at the positive so that there's things to learn in that, and people see who you are as you're going through a situation like that. And I want to be that example of an optimist person versus a pessimist. I'm more well known to be that way, and my coworkers can attest to that. And especially in this situation I think we're in right now, where we're having to do a huge task in our office that requires many people involved. And with that many people, I have to manage the questions and answers, and I can definitely see my day as negative, but I always at the end come out positive because I want to come back to work. So I want to do it again. So I do see myself as more of a optimist than a pessimist. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Fantastic. Thank you for participating. The next quote is this: criticism may not be agreeable, but it is necessary. It fulfills the same function as pain in the human body. It calls attention to an unhealthy state of things. I'd like to call on one of our new guests, Christian Fredrickson. Would you like to participate with that quotation?
Yes. Excuse me. Yes, Table Topics Master. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. So give me the quote one more time.
Criticism may not be agreeable, but it is necessary. It fulfills the same function as pain in the human body. It calls attention to an unhealthy state of things.
Okay. Yes, criticism it's essential. Where the draw the line is where it isn't destructive criticism anymore, and it starts destroying the person you're trying to build up, hopefully. And we've ran into that a few times where you have a troubled employee and you're trying to criticize them constructively and it goes the wrong way. So that takes a lot of research on your part, and sometimes you can have constructive criticism and build a person up and see what the outcome is of that. Thank you, Table Topics Master.
Okay, thank you being a guest here. We look forward to seeing you further. The next quote is this: kites rise highest against the wind, not with it. Kites rise highest against the wind, not with it. How say you? I think we have one more guest. Linda, are you still here? There you
Good
are.
evening, and thank you so much for presenting that quote, Mr. Table Topics Master. And it is truly a very timely quote, even for today. When I sit and I actually contemplate this quote, it really, what it means to me and how it speaks to me is just the way how certain conditions, and in particular, maybe adverse conditions, really pushes us, really tends to motivate us, and really challenges us to continue to rise and continue to soar higher, continuing to really defy the odds. If we look at those strong winds, that is really designed to bring that kite down, so to speak, and to really cause that kite to kind of shift away from its purpose, which is really to rise and to soar higher. And when we place ourselves as human beings in those conditions, there are times when the opposite effect happens. And if we really look at those strong winds, not look at it really so much as a deterrent, but really look at it as ways to motivate us to rise above those conditions which are meant to pull us down, then absolutely we can be like the kites, or like the kite in the quote, not allowing the strength or the force of anything negative to work against us, but rather using those opportunities to really rise above and soar higher. So thank you so much for that question, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Well, we thank you very much, Linda. We can see you'll be a great addition to the club. Speak to Marianne Grady after the meeting and we can get you set up right away. The next quote is this: "It is no use saying we are doing our best. You have got to succeed in doing what is necessary." And this quote, I'd like to go to Andrei Smolenko.
Thank you very much, Mr. Table Topics Master. The quotes of Winston Churchill about doing what is really necessary to win. Sometimes we all have our own aspirations in life. For example, I do. I want to become DTM, Distinguished Toastmaster. And I'm sitting on my sofa with my cup of tea and dreaming how best I'll become. My mind goes away and flies away, and all the glory and all the beautiful women and more and more and more, and I'm the best. On the other hand, I'm not sure if I'm prepared to do whatever is necessary at this moment to get to my goal. And it's the huge difference about what I'm prepared to do and how I see myself doing. Perhaps the same concept Winston Churchill used in his political career, in his politician career, and in his life. He did what was necessary for his country to win the war. He did what was necessary for that time, periods in all the world, to lead UK and allies in the struggle, in the war against German Nazis. At the same time, was he best at that? The answer probably is no for some of the commentators, but he did whatever it took him to do, whatever was necessary and beyond to win. Back to you, Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much. We are now at that point in time where I ask David as a timer to either say or post how our 8 contestants did in the table topics round segment of this meeting.
All right, well, I will post so that you have all the names, but everybody qualified is the short answer.
Okay, and send your votes to Trish. And at this point, we have finished our segment. Thank you all for participating. It was fun. Now it goes back to the General Evaluator, and Hector is our General Evaluator for this meeting.
Thank you very much, Andy. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. What a great way to get me out of my comfort zone, just as BDC was saying today during his portion of the meeting. And Tom is a general evaluator. I'll do the best I can and do what's necessary to bring this portion of the meeting to a success. And of course, the most important part of the meeting is what do we get from it? What do we learn? And let's go to hear from our evaluators who get some words of wisdom for our speakers. Our first evaluator, Andriy Smolenko, will be evaluating BDC of his speech, How to Win Speech Contest. Andriy, take it away, please.
Fellow online presenters, dear guests, and Brian, David, Crawford. Well, I just used a bit of technical tips and I decided to put your amazing photograph right up here on the top. Your speech on how to win an international speech contest. What a brilliant recipe for success. And we all can see that BDC is a well-experienced, rehearsed speaker. In fact, from what I've heard, he just had maybe a few minutes of preparation to do that speech. He was challenged by Andrew Byrne, and he took up on challenge. I could see that in his bubbly personality, it just shines through the experience, years and years of rehearsing the speech. I could see that in his presentation, enthusiasm, just to bring that idea and share his knowledge with his fellow Toastmasters, just beams and shines. What I personally like about BDC speech, that he really wants to bring value to online presenters. He really cares. He really shares his winning experience and giving us just 3 powerful techniques in his recipe for success. So thing number 1, to win international speech contest or any contest in life, you need to be inspirational, inspire people, and it needs to be relatable to the audience. I got it. Don't take it away from somewhere, Zimbabwe or the space. Make it relatable to the audience. Thing number 2 in my takeaway is funny. Yes, just find your own funny. And in a style, BDC demonstrated how being sometimes provocative or having that swagger could really make people funny. It works for him. So whatever works for you, bring it on. And the final ingredient in the winning speech is just having that X factor, having that confidence to win. At the same time, I just don't think that BDC was completely honest. He doesn't want to breed the new generation of competitors who could beat him at the international speech contest. Do you think anyone would do that? No. In my view, the real secret ingredient that BDC missed deliberately is practice, practice, and practice one more time. Inspiring, funny speech with X factor that demonstrated how you can win any contest in life. The one thing that I would add to the speech, BDC, please don't take it personally. However, with the wealth of experience that you clearly bring to the club, you bring to the speech, perhaps you could share some of the stories from your winning trophies. Saying, well, look, 2 years ago, I won that speech and that was the main thing. Or 3 years ago, I didn't do it, I didn't make it. And the reason for it was, give us a bit more of your failures. Because once you really that high up and talking about inspirationally about the winnings is your cup of tea. However, give us more failings so we can learn on some of the best speakers' mistakes. Overall, what's a great speech. I wish you all the best at your next international speech contest. At the same time, look out for newcomers on the block. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Henry. And now let's go to our second evaluator, Roy Brown, who's going to be honoring Pamela Benjamin's speech, Shine Online. Louis?
Thank you, Mr. GE. Boy, what a tough act to follow, I have to say first. Now we all know why Andre is our club evaluation champion. Marion has still to go, but I'm almost ready to just put Andre as the winner of this segment. But anyway, this isn't about me or Andre. This is about Pamela. Pamela, I have to say, I'm going to be pretty challenged to go 2 to 3 minutes with my evaluation in terms of offering you some additional suggestions for taking this to the next level, because I have to say, this was already top level for me. Seriously, I have seen you present in the club several times, but this time is the first time I've seen you really take things to a whole new level in so many ways. What I'd like to do right now is just kind of go down a checklist of things that really struck me that I thought you did incredibly well. And that really made for a great package for this presentation. And hopefully some of all of our guests here and members will grab a couple of golden nuggets from my list here. Audience interaction, use of the chat, perfect. Great way to get folks interested and engage right off the bat. Use that chat or use whatever you can to get folks interacting with you. You looked at the camera, you had great eye contact with the camera. I noticed a few times you were looking a little off to the side. I don't know if you had notes. I don't think you did, but for the most part, you kept your eyes right at the camera, looking at us. Another way to keep us even more engaged. Some great use of body language. I saw you do one of the, what was it? It starts not here or starts here, not here, some things like that. And also, I think that was it. There was a couple of other body language things, but that's great because again, I had not seen that extensive use of such techniques in other speeches. I love the Prezi show. I don't know if you had already learned it before. If you gathered some of that from Nick's presentations, kudos to you for leveraging what he shared with us. And the presentation itself is very engaging for me personally because it's everything that I can relate to, what I even have set from my own goals, some new things that I've incorporated into my own regimen. So I know, again, for me, it was really personally engaging. I love it. I already got your website up in my browser, ready to look things over. I do offer a couple of what I'll call language tweaks. And I say this only because it now becomes something where I hear it a lot and it makes me say, you know what, to exude even more confidence and presence, take some of these words out of there. An example being, I want to know, I would like to know. How about just please tell me, please share with me. I would like to challenge you. No. I am going to challenge you. Take some of those pausing types of words out of your presentation because you are the expert and you are here for that reason. Also, vocal variety. I know there was similar to other presentations you've given, I saw you really take this to a whole new level with your vocal variety. So great way to bring energy to the presentation. Wow, and here I thought I wasn't gonna go the whole 2 minutes or 3 minutes and I'm already in the red. Excellent presentation, I enjoyed it. I look forward to your future ones and see where this is really gonna go because again, you really just took this through the roof. Wonderful job. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Lou. And let's go to our third evaluator. In this case, Marianne Greed is going to be evaluating Dr. Hall with that beautiful game of football speech. Marianne?
Good evening, my friends, and good evening, Dr. Kyrin Hall. Tonight, you gave your icebreaker to us, the beautiful game of football. And it wasn't just a slice of your life. It was actually, you shared a lesson that your father gave to you. And I thought that was actually very special. You began and you started to talk about the parents on the sideline. Run, run, run. And when you did that, whoa, we all know somebody like that, even if it wasn't our own parents. And so you got relatability right off the bat, early on in your speech. So we all were kind of right there with you. You used alliteration, food, fitness, football, and that was very successful. You had very good gestures all throughout your speech. One gesture, though, I thought didn't really quite match, because when you did the hat trick and you talked about your dad smiling, you went, but you didn't smile when you did this. You were serious face. So when you're making a big smile, give them a big smile. Now, some of the suggestions that I would have to make your speech even better, and it was pretty darn terrific, would be to smile more, because you were very serious throughout your speech. And it was a really sweet story. And I think you could have found places to make sure that you were, giving off that kind of positive energy. The next thing would be eye contact. You can see I'm looking right at the camera, but you were not for most of this speech. Your eyes were downcast a little bit. So my suggestion would be is to raise your computer so that your camera is at eye level. And then when you do that, also, if you're going to use notes, and I think you were using notes and that's fine, but make sure they're up right near your camera so your eyes aren't going down, because it looks like your eyes are closed when you're looking down at the table to look at notes. And finally, the last suggestion I would give to you is wrap it up in an even stronger way. And what I mean by that is you gave a call to action at the end, but it was a little, I don't want to say weak, but it was a little weak. And when you do that, so instead of what you did, you could say, the next time you have a big decision to make, think, decide, pivot. You got this. Something really strong that leaves people thinking and encouraged. But obviously you're a seasoned speaker, even though this was your icebreaker, and it was an excellent job. So looking forward to more speeches from you, and congratulations on completing your icebreaker. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Marianne. And please, I ask our timer, David Carr, to give us a time reporting of our evaluators.
Again, I will post the times, but everybody qualified.
Great. You're going to have a hard time choosing an evaluator out of these great examples of evaluation. Please send your vote to Trisha. And let's go, for the sake of time, we're running a little bit short. Let's go to our reports. Our counter and watcher, Jim Barber. Please take it, Jim.
I'll make it brief. We have no cereal-filled pausers in our club.
That was brief. Thank you very much. Anything on the watcher side?
Same thing. Everybody's visual presence was terrific. Kudos.
Thank you very much, Jim. Our grammarian, Angela Heath.
We did pretty good today with our grammar. I did notice that several of our speakers, I'll send them a personal message, leaned on the a few times, but other than that, we had some great word usage. Starting out with no, I will not give you a drum roll. I thought that was perfect. Goals being dusted off. I love how we use the word pivot and spelled out so many great things that we all aspire to. And yeah, it was fabulous, guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much, Angela. Let's go to our chat monitor, Mary Ruth.
Yes. Tonight, we had some sharing of how cold it is in various places. When Pamela gave us a challenge and asked about goals, we found out that David wants to be bit by a radioactive spider so he can become Spider-Man. Carl shared a really nice Churchill quote, and Andrew shared some tips for an effective evaluation. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mary Ruth. And last but not least, do we have results, Trisha, for our votes tonight?
Yes, we do. I have to say it was very close and not everybody was voting. So make sure everybody votes next time for everything. So on every single category, it was very close. There was like a tiebreaker. I'll also put this in the chat. So I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to say best evaluator goes to Marianne Grady. Congratulations. Best table topic presenter goes to Carl Walsh. Congratulations. And drum roll, best speaker goes to Pamela Benjamin. Good job.
Great job. Thanks, Trisha, and congratulations to our winners. Before I turn these to our president, let me just give 2 more comments. Great table topic session. Andy, I love the fact that 3 of our guests had a chance to participate. That is fantastic. Thank you guys for playing along. And one last thing is I love the tip section. This is the first time that I've seen that, and no wonder we're an advanced club. This is the kind of thing that is going to entice these guests to say, I want to come and learn these techniques and high skills to improve my game in the online world. I leave you with that, and I turn these to our president. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Thank you to our Toastmaster for running an excellent meeting. This was the second of our tip of the day segment. It's something new. You may have seen the email I sent earlier announcing this new element to our meeting. I see we are at 8:01. I just would like to say something real quick as kind of an addition to what Hector just shared as GE, because again, we are experimenting with this. Things are gonna kind of settle down over time. We would like to have the role helpers at the beginning maybe not go into so much detail about what they do, except we do that when there are guests here who may not be Toastmasters because they have no idea about what any of those roles are about. However, that did leave less time on the end for them to give really solid reports, 1-minute reports about what they observed. So now it's something we're probably going to do another tweak about. I guess in all, simply give us your feedback on what you thought of this new format, how you like it, and maybe even some ideas for some of the things you'd like to see, or you know what, step up and be a presenter for the next tip of the day. Jim, I did miss part of it since I came in late, but what I heard was fantastic. And of course, that photo you had on there of that very handsome person, I mean, that was just frosting on the cake. Awesome job. Okay, we have time to hear at least from one guest. Hopefully all of our guests had a chance to introduce themselves at the beginning of the meeting. But let's hear from one to hear what Miss Sims, my eyes, I need to put my glasses on. Blenda or Bienda?
Yeah, it's Blenda.
Blenda, what'd you gain from our meeting, Blenda?
So I really liked it. First, I looked at the agenda, and awesome job there, how you put all the roles in there. I enjoyed everyone's enthusiasm, and there were I believe three speakers, and I wasn't used to that, but I liked it. And I liked how everyone evaluated with an optimism, but they did to me a really good job because they were honest, and I like that too. I like that you got all the guests involved except for President Mitchell. He needs to get involved too. Let's see, I liked how you guys voted as well. We don't have that in ours, so we got to kind of make ours better at McKinney. So this was a good way to do it. And I like also how you've added your titles next to your name so that we can figure out who the vote goes to and who the guests are. So great job. This is awesome.
Awesome. And by the way, are you currently a Toastmaster in another club?
Yes, sir. McKinney,
okay.
Texas, Rise and Shine.
Okay. Awesome. Well, we appreciate the fact that you came here and joined us. Sounds like you enjoyed it. So wonderful. Thank you for that. And thank you to all of our other guests for joining us as well. Our VPM, Marianne Grady, will be following up with you to gauge more of your thoughts, feedback, etc. So be on the lookout for that. In terms of the tip of the day, just before I hit the final gavel here, folks, in terms of our segment, tip of the day, we actually are going to have a contest to see what we can name this thing. We came up with a couple of ideas, we being the executive board, but we didn't really land on anything. We'd love to hear back from you on some cool, creative names for what we can call this thing, and we'll get back to you on that. We have our, what we call our after meeting little portion. Feel free if you'd like to stick around for that. It is not necessary, but lots of things usually come up at that time. There may be music and so forth. And also, please sign up for a role for our next meeting. Go to the website and sign up. With that said, meeting adjourned. I don't have capability to stop the recording. If anyone can, that'd be great.
I can do that. Okay.